An estimated 216,000 children, possibly more, were victims of sex abuse within France's Catholic Church, according to a major new report. Publishing its findings on Tuesday, the Independent Commission said 3,000 child abusers, two-thirds of them priests, worked in the church.
Altogether, violence against minors within the Catholic Church represents 4% of the total sexual violence in France, if we only include priests and clergy, and 6% if you include lay officers.
Listening to victims and witnesses, the Commission detailed decades of abuse and cover-ups dating back from the 1950s.
C'est de l'enfer dont vous revenez, vous.
You, the members of the Commission, have been and come back from hell.
Vous avez exploré les détails.
You have explored the darkest and most abject details that men are capable of doing.
Que l'homme sait parfois engendrer dans sa névrose. C'est bien dans les méandres les plus vicieux.
You uncovered the most vicious, unbearable depths of human behaviour.
Si nauséabond.
A hotline set up received 6,500 calls from alleged victims or people who said they knew a victim. 22 suspected crimes have been forwarded to prosecutors. Around 40 other cases that are too old to be prosecuted but involve alleged perpetrators who are still alive have also been passed to the church.
Well, let's get more now on our top story. We can speak to our international affairs correspondent, Valerie Goriat. Valerie, you've been covering cases like this for some time here for us on Euronews. How much of a shock will these findings be to France?
Well, the fact that there has been abuse is not a surprise, not a shock. But what is a major shock is the scale of the abuse. I mean, there have been investigations and reports in other European countries, but the figures were never as high as those which were released today. So this really comes as a shock and will, trigger a lot of reactions.
Well, what are the implications then for the Catholic Church in France and beyond? We've heard in the report before that so many of the people accused are too old now to be prosecuted.
That's true. There are many cases which fall under the statute of limitations, as is the term in France. So they're too old. Some of them have also died, and perpetrators have died as well. So if you compare the number of victims to the number of priests or clerics which have been prosecuted, it's a few dozen in France and in Europe. So it's quite a small amount. So the implications are very important for the French Church and the Roman Catholic Church in general. The President of the Commission has made clear today that he wants the Roman Catholic Church to take responsibility for the abuse, to admit that it's been covering up cases for decades, and they're calling for an end to impunity, basically. The Commission is asking for a reform of canon law, which could, actually help increase prosecution of perpetrators. It's calling for a reform of governance of the Church, which has been closing its eye on a number of wrongdoings, and also sacralizing the status of priesthood, basically. So there are a number of things that are in the pipeline that they want to see reformed. And it has to be said that this report has been commissioned by the Conference of Bishops in France themselves. There is an understanding within the Church that changes are needed, and this is also answering, expectations from victims themselves and from members of the French Catholic Church.
Did you mention that some of the perpetrators, of course, have died, others are too old to be prosecuted under France's statute of limitations. But how are the victims, those who are alive and their families and loved ones, been reacting to this?
Well, they've welcomed the report as a long-awaited, process. It's taken a month, a couple of years to come out. They were expecting this, and they are also expecting a deep reform of the church governance and the doctrine of the church. They're expecting new steps to be taken in terms of prosecution, but also in terms of compensation. And there have been, moves from the French Catholic Church, which has said that it would compensate victims whose cases fall under the statute of limitations, but they're saying it's not fast enough, it's not enough. And the interesting thing is that the demands are not coming only from the victims, but also from within the church, from an increasing number of clerics and an increasing number of followers who have been, disaffecting from the church by scores. And as top-ranking church official in Germany put it to me recently when I was reporting on the wave of reform that's going on in the German Roman Catholic Church. He said it's not just a moral responsibility, it's also a question of survival. People are leaving by thousands, and if the church wants to stop this hemorrhage, it has to act.
Indeed, unfortunate circumstances again for the Catholic Church. Valerie Goria, thank you for taking a look at that for us.
Thank you.